Hey everybody, welcome back to A Brush with Coaching. So this is session 2 in our series looking at how we can be more conscious about how we're investing our time. And yesterday we looked at the Eisenhower grid and how you could use that to make sure that we're focusing on all the things we should be focusing on rather than all the things we could be focusing on. Now if that makes no sense to you, don't worry, scroll back down through the timeline or go to A Brush with Coaching YouTube channel and you'll find the video there. But today what I want to do is build on the idea of the Eisenhower grid in terms of it helping us identify what we should be working on and ask the question, yeah, but how do I make sure I get them done? So what I want to do is introduce you to a 100-year-old productivity hack. And it goes back to 1918. And the story goes that Charles Schwab, who at the time was one of the richest men in the world, he was president of the Bethlehem Steel Company, a massive organisation in America at the time, was looking for productivity enhancements. He was renowned for always looking for how could I make my business, my systems, my processes, my people more effective. So he invited in a guy called Ivy Lee, and Ivy Lee was a productivity expert. And Charles Schwab said to Ivy Lee, come and show me how I can make my business run better, how I can get more done, how I can increase productivity. And Ivy Lee said, absolutely no problem. Just give me 15 minutes with each of your execs. And Charles Schwab said, okay, but what's that going to cost me? And Ivy Lee said, it'll cost you nothing today, but in 3 months' time, write me a check for whatever my advice is worth. And 3 months later, Charles Schwab wrote Ivy Lee a check for $25,000. Which is about $500,000 in today's money. So what was it? What was this fantastic tip, this trick, this magic ingredient that Ivy Lee gave to Charles Schwab and his team that Charles Schwab thought was worth $500,000 for 3 months? Well, it was this. Every night, before you go to sleep, write down the 5 or 6 most important things you've got to accomplish the next day. List them in order, starting from 1 to 6, 5, and then tomorrow start at number 1 and don't move on to number 2 till number 1's done, and then do the same with 3, 4, 5 and 6. And that was it. I don't know what you're thinking. That's it. That was the $500,000 idea. Well, yeah. And it's because it's simple that it's so effective. Because what that tip does is make you do 3 things. The first thing it does is demand clarity. You've got to be clear on what your priorities are. You've got to be clear on what you're leading for. You've got to be clear on what difference you're trying to make. Otherwise, everything looks like a priority. And then it forces you to choose. Because by making you choose from a list of possible 20, 30 or 40 things and nail that down to 5 or 6, it really makes you get clear about what are the big choices I can make, what are the things that are going to make a big difference. And then the third thing it does is it creates momentum, because the biggest obstacle to finishing anything is starting it. So by being really clear about what are you going to do first thing tomorrow, it allows you to hit the ground running and create momentum for task 1 and then task 2 and then task 3. So it demands clarity, it forces choice, and it creates momentum. And I know you're still thinking, but is that it? Well, yeah, because the trick isn't in the advice. The trick is in doing it. And if you try and execute this, if you try and do this, you'll find it's hard, because it does demand clarity, and because it does make you choose, and because it does create momentum, which means you stop being distracted by some of the things you like being distracted by. So that's it. It's worth $500,000 apparently, but it's free to you today. So why not try it tonight, this evening, before you fall asleep? Make a list of the 5 or 6 most important things you need to get done tomorrow. And then, as Ivy Lee says, don't even think about moving on to number 2 till you've done number 1. Let me know how you get on, and hopefully see you back here tomorrow for another tip. Take care, go well, stay safe, bye-bye.